Noah with The Cities Inside Us.
The Cities Inside Us by Alberto Rios. We live in secret cities and we travel unmapped roads. We speak words which we recognize, but they cannot be looked up. They are our words. They come from very far inside our mouths. You and I, we are the secret citizens of the city inside us. And inside us, there go all the cars we have driven and seen. There are all the people that we know and have known. There are all the places that are, but which used to be as well. This is where they went. They did not disappear. We each take a piece, through the eye and through the ear. It's loud inside us, in here, and when we speak in the outside world, we have to hope that some of that sound does not come out, that an arm does not reach out in place of the tongue.
Well, somebody's got to be up next.
All right. Troops, you holding up? It's like a lot of aha moments here in an hour. All right, so number 14, Jenna Majeski with A Certain Kind of Eden.
Yes.
A Certain Kind of Eden by Kay Ryan. It seems like you could, but you can't go back and pull the roots and runners and replant. It's all too deep for that. You've overprized intention, have mistaken any bent you're given for control. You thought you chose the bean and chose the soil. You even thought you abandoned one or two gardens, but those things keep growing where we put them, if we put them at all. A Certain Kind of Eden holds us thrall. Even the one vine that tendrils out alone, in time turns on its own impulse, twisting back down its upward course, a strong and then a stronger rope. The greenest, saddest, strongest kind of hope.
It's okay. All right, up next is Ray Curick with Catch a Little Rhyme.
Catch a Little Rhyme by Eve Merriam. Once upon a time, I caught a little rhyme. I set it on the floor, but it ran right out the door. I chased it on my bicycle, but it melted to an icicle. I scooped it up in my hat, but it turned into a cat. I caught it by its tail, but it stretched to a whale. I followed it in a boat, but it became a goat. I fed it tin and paper, but it became a tall skyscraper. Then it grew into a kite and flew far out of sight. I nailed it.
We're just giving judges a minute to catch up with Ray there, because that was a good run. Hang on there, Pat. Go back, Ray. All right. Up next with The Illiterate is Patrick Bond.
The Illiterate by William Meredith. Touching your goodness, I am like a man who turns a letter over in his hand. And you might think this was because the hand was unfamiliar. But the truth is, the man has never had a letter from anyone. And now he is both afraid of what it means and ashamed, because he has no other means to find out what it says than to ask someone. His uncle could have left the farm to him, or his parents died before he sent them word, or the dark girl changed and want him for beloved. Afraid and letter proud, he keeps it with him. What would you call his feelings to the words that keep him rich and orphaned and beloved?
All right, we're just waiting for the judges to finish up there. Some of these poems can just kind of bring a tear to your eye. Number 17, Andy Buckengruff with Snowy Owl Near Ocean Shores.
Snowy Owl Near Ocean Shores by Dwayne Neatum. A castaway blown south from the Arctic tundra sits on a stump in an abandoned farmer's field. Beyond the dunes, cattails toss and bend, as snappy as the surf, rushing and crashing down the jetty. His head a swivel of round glances, his eyes a deeper yellow than the winter sun. He wonders if the spot 200 feet away is a mouse on the crawl from mud hole to deergrass patch. An hour of wind and sleet whips the air. Nothing darts or passes but the river underground. A North Pole creature shows us how to last. The wind ruffles his feathers from crown to claw, while he gazes into zeros to salt-slick rain. As a double rainbow before us arcs, sky and owl, we leave him surrendering to the echo of his white refrain.
Gee whiz, spilt the dang apple juice.
Okay, so up next, this is recitation number 18 of 21. Hanging in there, audience? All right.
We're doing great.
We are. Okay. So Jason Drebber has a strong, important message about life from our favorite poet, Longfellow. The tide rises, the tide falls.
The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The tide rises, the tide falls, the twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sands, damp and brown, the traveler hastens towards the town, and the tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints in the sands, and the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but never more, returns the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises, the tide falls.
All right, up next is Rosalie Diner with The Affliction of Richard.
The Affliction of Richard by Robert Bridges. Love not too much, but how, when thou hast made me such, and doth thy gifts bestow, how can I love too much? Though I must fear to lose, and drown my joy in care, with all its thorns I choose the path of love and prayer. Thou, though I know not why, didst kill my childish trust, that breach with toil did I repair, because I must. In spite of frightening schemes, with which the fiends of hell blaspheme me in my dreams, so far I have hoped well. But what the heavenly key, what marvel in me wrought, shall quite exculpate thee, I have no shadow of thought. What am I that complain? The love from which began my question sad and vain justifies thee to man.
Untangling that love problem there. And up next, we have Spruce Bowen with More Lies.
Lies by Karen Gottschall. Sometimes I say I'm going to meet my sister at the cafe, even though I have no sister, just because it's such a beautiful thing to say. I've always thought so, ever since I read a novel in which two sisters were constantly meeting in cafes. Today, for example, I walked alone on the wet sidewalk, wearing my rain boots, expecting someone might ask where I was headed. I bought a steno pad and a watch battery. The store windows fogged up. Rain in April is a kind of promise, and it costs nothing. I carried a bag of books to the cafe and ordered tea. I like a place that's lit by lamps. I like a place where you can hear people talk about small things, like the difference between azure and cerulean, and the price of tulips. It's going down. I watched someone who could be my sister walk in, shaking the rain from her hair. I thought, even now, florists are filling their coolers with tulips, $5 a bundle. All over the city, there are sisters. Any one of them could be mine.
That's class.
All right. Up next, and I think she's fresh from a Moth story event in Burlington, along with a few others out there in the audience. Those are true stories told live, no notes, so poetry recitation is just a warm-up for that. All right, this is Abby Kaya with Personal.
Personal by Tony Hoagland. Don't take it personal, they said. But I did. I took it all quite personal. The breeze and the river, the color of the fields, the price of grapefruit and stamps, the wet hair of women in the rain. And I cursed what hurt me, and I praised what gave me joy, the most simple-minded of possible responses. The government reminded me of my father, with its deafness and its laws. And the weather reminded me of my mom, with her tropical squalls. Enjoy it while you can, they said of happiness. Think first, they said of talk. Get over it, they said at the School of Broken Hearts. But I couldn't, and I didn't, and I don't believe in the clean break. I believe in the compound fracture, served with a sauce of dirty regret. I believe in saying it all and taking it all back, and saying it all again for good measure. While the air fills up with I'm sorries like wheeling birds, and the trees look seasick in the wind. Oh, life, can you blame me for making a scene? You were that yellow caboose, the moon disappearing over a ridge of cloud. I was the dog, chained in some fool's backyard, barking and barking, trying to convince everything else to take it personal too.
First of all, I just wanted to have a round of applause for those judges, our founders, and a really loud round for all the recitations today. Be proud, you guys. Stay strong. That was awesome work. Word is we have a Poetry Out Loud spot tomorrow in Best Thursday, so that's when winners will be announced. And again, thank you so much for coming today. Please finish up that food in the back and have a great afternoon. Thank you for coming.